Good morning, I'm Craig DeGrelli. It's Wednesday, March 19th, 2025, and these are your Unbiased Updates. President Trump and Russian leader Vladimir Putin talked by phone and outlined the first aspects of a ceasefire to end the war in Ukraine. But the fighting and attacks continue on energy and infrastructure. Also, a happy homecoming. The splashdown off the Florida coast that ended a 9-month ordeal for 2 American astronauts who had been stuck in space.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world, these are today's Unbiased Updates.
This morning, despite what President Donald Trump is hailing as a successful phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin in negotiating a ceasefire in Ukraine, both Russia and Ukraine have launched air attacks damaging each other's infrastructure. Russia claiming this morning that a Ukrainian drone attack sparked a small fire at an oil depot in the southern part of the country. Meantime, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia targeted civilian infrastructure overnight, including a hospital in Sumy. Officials there say firefighters evacuated at least 147 patients, and the blasts also damaged part of a children's medical facility, but no injuries have been reported. According to a Ukrainian state railway company, Russia also carried out a drone attack on the electricity system powering the railways in a central region of Ukraine. The attacks come just hours after Putin accepted an American proposal for both Russia and Ukraine to stop targeting energy infrastructure for 30 days. However, Russia did not agree to a full ceasefire. In a statement, the White House said they did agree to start, quote, technical negotiations on implementation of a maritime ceasefire in the Black Sea, full ceasefire, and permanent peace. These negotiations will begin immediately in the Middle East, the statement added. Ukrainian President Zelensky then responded to the agreement between the United States and Russia in a post on social media saying, quote, today Putin effectively rejected the proposal for a full ceasefire. It would be right for the world to respond by rejecting any attempts by Putin to prolong the war. During his call with President Trump, Putin said the, quote, key condition for achieving lasting peace would be for Ukraine to stop rearming and receiving military aid and intelligence support. Zelensky also told reporters he hoped Kyiv's partners would not cut vital military assistance for Ukraine. He says he had phone conversations with key allies, including French President Macron and German Chancellor Scholz, and was confident they would not. A federal judge says the dismantling of the U.S. Agency for International Development at the hands of the Elon Musk-led Department of Government Efficiency was likely unconstitutional. On Tuesday, U.S. District Judge Theodore Chung ruled a group of unnamed aid workers who sued to stop the demolition of the agency and its programs was likely to win the lawsuit, and said Musk's power over executive agencies likely violates the Constitution's Appointments Clause. The judge also ordered USAID operations to be partially restored, ordering DOJ to submit a plan for employees to reoccupy the federal office they were evicted from last month. He also barred DOJ from any further work, quote, related to the shutdown of USAID. As Straight Arrow News reporter Kaylee Carey explains, this all comes as the World Health Organization issued a strong warning on the consequences of closing the agency.
The World Health Organization says countries could soon lose access to life-saving vaccines, treatments, and medications, with the director warning that pulling U.S. funding could leave people with HIV, AIDS, malaria, or tuberculosis without essential care.
I'm talking about cuts to direct U.S. funding for countries through USAID, the U.S. CDC, and other agencies.
On Monday, the Global Health Agency called on President Donald Trump to consider the impact of ending funding for international aid programs through the U.S. Agency for International Development, also known as USAID.
If disruptions continue, we could see an additional 15 million cases of malaria and 107,000 deaths this year alone, caused an immediate stop to services for HIV treatment, testing, and prevention in more than 50 countries. 8 countries now have substantial disruptions to antiretroviral therapy and will run out of medicines in the coming months.
These statistics have led U.S. Christian evangelical groups to also sound the alarm, urging Trump to maintain foreign aid programs supporting the fight against HIV and AIDS. Within days of taking office, Trump put a pause on sending U.S. money overseas, including most programs under USAID's umbrella. Although the president's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, or PEPFAR, a 20-year-old program, is safe from budget cuts, evangelical groups say it still relies on U.S. aid for data relevant to its work. Since its start, the program has prevented over 25 million deaths, according to the State Department. Both WHO and the National Association of Evangelicals warn that decades of progress could be stopped and reversed, leading to a resurgence of AIDS. About 20 million people depend on medicines from PEPFAR. In countries like Nigeria, PEPFAR is the main source of HIV funding. In other countries, PEPFAR still delivers vital health services with clinics to treat other conditions as part of the fight against AIDS.
The U.S. also has a responsibility to ensure that if it withdraws direct funding for countries, it's done in an orderly and humane way that allows them to find alternative sources of funding.
That was our Kaylee Carey reporting. President Trump has said he's planning to remove the United States from the World Health Organization. As of now, the U.S. provides about 1/5 of the WHO's annual budget. In a rare statement, U.S. Supreme Court Justice John Roberts defended federal judges who have issued decisions against the Trump administration, saying impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement with the court's decision. Roberts' statement came after President Trump went on his Truth Social platform Tuesday, calling for a federal judge to be impeached after the judge, James Boasberg, temporarily blocked the Trump administration on Saturday from using the wartime law called the Alien Enemies Act to detain and deport non-citizens. The Trump administration was flying reputed members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua out of the country when the judge issued the restraining order. The flights eventually landed in El Salvador. Federal judges are appointed for life and can only be removed from the bench if they are impeached by the House and convicted by the Senate. Only 15 judges have been impeached in United States history, the last one being in 2010 over bribery charges. 8 of those 15 have been convicted and removed from office. History buffs, conspiracy theorists, and just curious Americans have a lot to comb through after the Trump administration released thousands of records related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Straight Arrow News reporter Lauren Taylor has details on this long-awaited release.
The release consists of approximately 80,000 pages of previously classified records, according to the Department of National Intelligence. Most of the digitized files come from the President's Commission on the Assassination of President Kennedy, also known as the Warren Commission, established by President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1963 to investigate Kennedy's death. The Warren Commission concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in assassinating Kennedy on November 22, 1963 in Dallas, Texas. The commission determined that Oswald fired 3 shots from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository building, hitting Kennedy twice while the president was riding in a motorcade through Dealey Plaza. Oswald denied the claims and insisted that he was innocent, telling reporters he was, quote, just a patsy. Oswald was never tried in court because 2 days after Kennedy was killed, a nightclub owner named Jack Ruby shot and killed Oswald on live television while Oswald was being transferred to the county jail. The debate about whether Oswald acted alone or as part of a larger conspiracy, pointing to other organizations ranging from the mafia to the CIA, continues to this day. Today, per his direction, previously redacted JFK assassination files are being released to the public with no redactions, Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, said in a statement. President Trump signed an executive order in January ordering the declassification of the files, along with records pertaining to the assassinations of Senator Robert F. Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
That was our Lauren Taylor reporting. Many of the files related to the JFK assassination in 1963 have already been disclosed, including 13,000 documents released during the Biden administration. However, most of the documents made public yesterday had previously been redacted, so there is a chance they might contain new insight though many experts say it's unlikely.
And splashdown. Crew 9 back on Earth.
What a scene and a welcome sight. Just before 6 p.m. Eastern last night, NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams returned to Earth as their SpaceX capsule parachuted and splashed down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida, ending a 9-month ordeal. Medics were there to get them out of the capsule and put them on stretchers as they waved to the cameras. The two astronauts had been stranded at the International Space Station since last June. They had arrived at the ISS aboard the new Boeing Starliner for a mission that was expected to last about a week. But the Starliner came back to Earth empty due to various mechanical problems that made the spacecraft unsafe. SpaceX then took over the mission of getting them home. The arrival of a SpaceX capsule this past Sunday on the International Space Station meant they finally had a ride home. Wilmore and Williams ended up spending 286 days in space, conducting experiments and taking spacewalks. They traveled more than 120 million miles total. On X, SpaceX founder Elon Musk posted, "Congratulations to the SpaceX and NASA teams for another safe astronaut return. Thank you to the President of the United States for prioritizing this mission." Wilmore and Williams are both retired Navy captains who said the extended time in space reminded them of a prolonged military deployment and that it was tough on their families. The two will now have a few days of routine health checks at the Johnson Space Center in Houston before being allowed to finally return to their homes. Hey, here we go. March Madness is officially underway. Last night, North Carolina and Alabama State emerged victorious on the men's side. Both advanced in the play-in game called the First Four. Tonight, the NCAA Women's Tournament tips off. Straight Arrow News sports anchor Chris Francis breaks down the dark horse and Cinderella teams that could shake up the bracket.
The NCAA Women's Tournament is slightly staggered from the men's showcase, starting one day later and then ending one day earlier in April. And with women's basketball not yet quite having the parity that the men's game has from top to bottom, the bracket is sometimes top-heavy. That said, this year's version promises to have some March Madness moments because all the top teams are very, very good. Take the first two regions where the top overall seed UCLA and the defending national champion South Carolina will have to contend with a pair of ACC schools, NC State and Duke, among others. The next two regions look like this. Texas and Southern Cal, the runners-up in the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten, will be on the lookout for teams with star power like UConn's Paige Buchers and TCU's Haley Van Lith, who sums up her team's chances quite well after winning the Big 12 tournament.
It takes a team that's hot at the right time. And, I think we kind of have that going for us. Like they said, we were the only team that won the regular season that also followed through and won the conference championship. So it really is about who is hot. And once you win the first couple games, it's kind of about luck and if you get a few calls here and there. So we're hot. We're going to keep staying hot and doing whatever we can to keep that edge.
After the top 8 teams, there are bound to be some bracket busters and dark horses in there. Perhaps a team like the 10 seed, Harvard, featuring Harmony Turner, who won their first ever Ivy League tournament over the weekend. Turner has averaged a whopping 31 points per game in her last 4. And how about Vanderbilt, making their second straight appearance? They're a 7 seed who could meet Duke in the second round. The Commodores are led by the backcourt duo of Michaela Blakes and Camille Pierre. Good guards usually mean long tournament runs. The Washington Huskies, who were on the bubble during Selection Sunday but are in the dance for the first time in 8 years, could be a dark horse. They're an 11 seed, and they would meet number 6 West Virginia in the second round if they advance. The Dogs rank in the top 10 in the nation in field goal percentage and three-point percentage.
I think the most important thing for us is how good can we be is the question we keep asking our team. We're in every game, and in some games we've really played exceptionally well. And I actually think we could have played better. And I think our team thinks we could have played better, even in wins. And so we're just kind of tapping the surface of it right now.
Many of the teams in this women's tournament feel the same way Tina Langley does. And in the next few weeks, we'll see who has the juice to take down one of the favorites.
Should be an exciting few weeks for sure. Those are your unbiased updates for this Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great day.